Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. What I want to do today, I have a video, several videos on what's actually in these bag products. I talked to you about how you can save money. Most of our money is spent buying fertilizer and buying bag soils to fill our raised beds. You don't have to buy any of these really. You can just get a bag of peat moss. This is a really long video. I respect your time, so there are timestamps in the video description that will guide you through everything I'm talking about. We're going to look at potting mix, garden soil, topsoil, peat moss, some soil conditioner compost. I'm going to show you how I make my 50-50 mix. I use it for containers, I use it for earth beds, and that will cover everything. But please check out the video description and just find the parts that you're interested in and check those out. Again, I know this is long, I respect your time. But tonight I'm going to open these bags up. I'm going to let the sun dry them, and we're going to take a really up-close look at what you're spending money for. Like, this is like $9 right here. This is the most expensive way to fill anything, is by using the potting mix from Miracle-Gro. All these products work. Here's a little bit of a preview. When you pick up Kellogg's raised bed or potting mix, this is dried out a little bit because it's from a past video. Look at this. This is just shredded hardwood, maybe a little bit of perlite, probably some peat moss. But this is what you're paying for. It's just really shredded wood. So I'm going to empty out all these bags. We're going to let the sun dry it, shed some light on what's actually in each of these products. This is what the products look right out of the bag. I'm going to let this dry for at least 24 hours so we can get in close and really see what's in there. Now, they're dark. They've got moisture in there. They look great. You know, you add water, makes everything look dark, looks really healthy. Okay, now each of the bags have a different name on them. Like the ones right up here, garden soil, garden soil. This is raised bed garden soil. They look very similar. There's topsoil over there, topsoil with manure and humus in it, and then topsoil back there. They all look essentially the same. Here's some potting up mixes, raised bed potting up mixes. The ingredients are essentially the same. What's really important to understand is these are convenience. So if you want to buy them and you need to buy them for the convenience, I understand it. But you can make choices and buy lesser known brand names, save yourself some money. But I think you're going to be really interested in seeing what this looks like once it's all dried out, because there's not really much to it. So it's actually been 3 days. It took 3 days for these to really dry out so we can compare them a little bit better. Please subscribe. I'm trying to reach 750,000 subscribers, and every person really helps, so I really appreciate that. I also have to spend a lot of money. I spent like $80 on this, and I don't really need it. So when I'm done, I got to figure out what I'm going to do with everything. I only really use peat moss in the back. I use the soil conditioner, organic compost in the back there, and then a cheap bag of topsoil. That makes everything that you need, and we'll be talking about that. So it gets confusing when you go to the store. What do you see? You see all kinds of different names on the packaging. So we're going to start with the potting mixes right there. There's basically 3 categories. There's container mix category. This is my opinion. In that container mix category, you can find raised bed products. You can buy potting soils. You can buy container soils. They all have different names, but those are essentially for containers, and they really contain more peat moss. A lot of wood is in there. Then you get to the next category, which is typically garden soil. Like the one right there is a garden soil. The one right here is a garden soil, and they're meant to be used in the earth. Your raised beds, why it's not called raised bed garden soil, I don't know. But you can put that into your earth beds, and it's just not as light and as fluffy as the potting mixes. The potting mixes are really soilless. There's nothing in there with respect to like clay and earth, silt, all that kind of stuff. The gardening mixes have lots of wood in them, maybe some peat moss, but they also have a lot of earth. And I actually kind of like those. And then you have the cheapest category, which is the topsoil category. So that's just a basic topsoil. The one back there is, it says humus and manure, but the trick there is that any bag can say compost, humus, manure. It doesn't tell you how much is in there. That's basically a topsoil with some amendments in there, and that's okay to buy too. And then you have a premium topsoil back there, and they all look essentially the same. So the categories are topsoils, garden soils, and then your container mixes. And your container mixes are usually soilless, and they may be also called potting mix, container mix, or raised bed mix. And this is why it's confusing. If you come over to here, this product, let me clear it out for you, says raised bed and garden soil. And we're going to start over here at the more expensive products. You don't really want to use these two, I think, in your garden beds. They're just way expensive. This one is raised bed and potting mix. So we'll start with the first brand, and this is what it looks like dried out. There's some perlite in there, lots of shredded wood, probably peat moss. And if you've ever used the Kellogg's brand before, sometimes putting seeds directly in here, they don't do well. Sometimes if you have too much of this and you put a transplant in there, they don't do well initially because this wood has to break down. In order for it to break down, it needs nitrogen. So it's taking nitrogen from your plants and your seeds, and you may have stunted plants. Now, what I like about the bags is you can kind of go in here, read what's in there, and let me get it in close. But it says this product is formulated with organic materials, okay, maybe, including one or more of the following: processed forest products, recycled forest products, arbor fines, peat humus or compost, perlite, cocoa coir, peat moss, some sand is in there, lime to help with the pH, gypsum, and organic fertilizer. Now, whenever you see processed forest product, recycled forest product, that is wood, usually shredded. Could be pallets, it could be wood. Once it says recycled, it could be stuff that was used to make things. They pulverize it, they put it in there. This has a nice mix of everything, and again, just so you know, this is Kellogg's brand, organics. All these types of soil in a bag, soilless, topsoil, they're not really regulated. You can see a lot of things on there like OMRI listed for organic use, organic nutrients. It doesn't necessarily mean that these products are organic. Yes, it does have a stamp. And if you look at them, it says certified soil council, mulch and soil council. And it says right down here in the fine print that these aren't tested for pesticides. They're not really tested to see what's in there. They're just saying, you know, that it's organic fertilizer, that it's peat moss from this place, that it's shredded hardwood. There's no guarantee that something might be in any of these. They're just not well regulated. So don't be fooled by all natural, organics, organic nutrients, all that kind of stuff. Most of these soils, if it's a potting mix, topsoil, whatever, it has fertilizer thrown in there. That's all that's being used to grow bigger plants. So don't get fooled by, you know, grow plants 2 times bigger, 3 times bigger, etc., just because they have fertilizer in there. So the other thing I want to do is this is 2 cubic feet. And that's how much you get in 2 cubic feet. I have a chart that I made up to make sense of this. And yes, this is going to be a longer video, and I will put this at the end of the video too so that you can screen capture it. But this is just a way to really understand what you're getting in the products. So what we're doing today is we're going to go with the potting mixes first. So we're going to start with the raised bed potting mix by Kellogg. It's not compressed. It doesn't come loose and dry. There's a wetting agent in there. There's moisture. The bag is 2 cubic feet. For 2 cubic feet it was $9.97. And then I've converted all the prices for each product to 2 cubic feet so you can compare these better. Because sometimes it's 1.5 cubic feet, sometimes it's 0.75 cubic feet, sometimes they tell you 46 dry quarts. It gets really confusing. So this product for 2 cubic feet is $9.97. So, and then again, I will put this chart at the end of the video so you can look at it better. When we come over to this potting mix, this is Miracle Grow. This one says grow plants twice as big. That's because they compare their test to potting mixes where plants are growing that has no fertilizer. So the only reason this grows plants twice as big is because it has fertilizer, and they compare it to products that don't have fertilizer. It makes really no sense to me. This does not say organic anywhere because it doesn't have organic fertilizer in there. But this is 0.75 cubic feet. This is what it looks like. It's nice. I mean, it's more pulverized in respect to the wood that's in there. There's more peat moss in there. If we flip it over, we can take a look at the ingredients. And again, the ingredients say processed forest products, peat, core, sphagnum peat moss, perlite fertilizer, and a wetting agent. Now, all these products, again, they grow well. This product was $9.97 for 25 quarts. When you convert this over to 2 cubic feet, that's 60 quarts, this turns out to be $23. So for 2 cubic feet of this material, $23, 2 cubic feet of this raised bed potting mix was $9.97. All right, so let's take a look at the next all-purpose potting mix. That one's in here. This one's by Vigoro. And the thing is I'm not 100% sure, but I think Scott's was bought by Monsanto, Miracle Grow, all these companies. We don't really know who owns them. So you want to do your research to know who you're buying from, because I know some people like to support companies based on, you know, the company's ethics. So this is an all-purpose potting mix by Vigoro, and it has more sand and earth in there. So it's darker than the other products I was showing you. I don't know if you can see that. Let's do it this way. It has more wood and less peat moss in there. And I kind of like this too, because I prefer products not to be soilless when I'm using them as my container mixes or my pots. I like to have some earth in there. Taking a look at what's in here, the ingredients. This product is formulated from one of more of the following: peat processed with Farce products, core and/or compost, sphagnum peat moss, perlite fertilizer, and a wetting agent. So they're all pretty similar. The main difference I usually find is different amounts of shredded hardwood or shredded woods, and the woods are sometimes thicker, like little pieces like this, or they're more fine. Same basic ingredients. This cost, for 32 dry quarts, it was $8.87. When you calculate this out to 2 cubic feet, it was $16. So this product for 2 cubic feet was $16, $22, $23, and then that one was $9.97. So you get a sense of the cost. It's up to you which one you want to buy. I would recommend, if I'm buying a potting mix, to make it, but if you had to buy one from the bag, I like the Vigoro a little bit better. How you get around all this wood in these products is to give them a water-soluble fertilizer. You fill up the pot with your soil, really douse it with fish emulsion or an organic fertilizer with lots of nitrogen, and that helps alleviate the damage that the wood does as it's trying to compost and decay down. So I know this video is long, but it's really important, I think, to understand what you're buying, because you can make the cheap stuff, or you can make the good stuff with the cheap stuff. It's a better product. So the next category is garden soils, and I do recommend them for your earth beds. They're pretty good. Again, you're gonna have wood chips in there, so you're gonna have to, I think, add some more nitrogen. So, and I will actually make the product I make at the end if you want to hang around and see that. I have plenty of videos on it, but I figure if you guys are watching a pretty long video, you don't want to jump to another one to see how to make my basic mix. The garden soil has earth in it, which is usually sand, maybe some clay, that kind of stuff. Lots of pieces of wood in there. So this is by Vigoro garden soil. This is garden soil by Miracle Grow. Very similar. You know, there's the dried. That's why I like to dry it, because you can see more of the wood pieces in there. It doesn't all get blended together with the moisture that's in there. And there's definitely earth in there. That's what I think plants need to really develop a great root system. Of course, it has to be light. Now, this is a raised bed. This is by Miracle-Gro 2, a raised bed garden soil, which I think means it just has more of the peat moss and stuff in there. And it's pretty nice, but they're expensive. So again, cost-wise, coming over to the Vigoro, which I hope that's the way you say it, that garden soil for 1 cubic feet is $4.97, 1 cubic foot. So if you make this 2 cubic feet to keep things comparative, it is $9.94. So 2 cubic feet for $9.94. Coming over to the Miracle-Gro garden soil, that is 0.75 cubic feet for $4.21. So to make that to 2 cubic feet, this is $11.13. So that one's $11.13. This one is $9.94. They basically look the same. You know, you can save $2 by buying that. Coming over here to the raised bed garden soil by Miracle-Gro, that's 1.5 cubic feet. That is $9.97. To get it to 2 cubic feet, you'd be paying $13.29. So $13.29, about $11, and that was $9. And these are just garden soils. Nothing fancy in any of these. You might as well go for the cheapest one. Again, take any of these, mix them with some of your sphagnum peat moss. You end up with a great mix for the earth or for your containers. The cheapest categories for the bag products are the topsoils. Now, you can get an all-purpose topsoil. That name always seems to change every year. Home Depot or Lowe's has a different, basic topsoil. You may see something that says humus and manure. This is a little bit misleading because they don't have to tell you how much, let's just say, compost is in there, or manure, or humus, or anything like that. It could be, a fluff, and it counts. When you look at these, this is pretty much a topsoil with some compost added. You have a premium topsoil, which is more expensive. That usually has some cocoa coir in there. This one even says adds organic matter, sphagnum peat moss to existing soil. So if you use this, you're adding some peat moss. That bale right there is 3 cubic feet, and it's only $22. And I'm going to explain to you how much is actually in there, when we get to the end of this. So the premium topsoils, I kind of like this one. I mean, it's got earth in there, which is what you want. Earth, the sand, silt, everything that makes up soil. You really need that so that the nutrients cling to it. Microbes love it. It really does add to the garden. But you don't have to buy it in a bag. You can make this very easily. So that's a topsoil, a premium version. This is premium. And again, they're trying to get you on, oh, I got a bag of humus and manure. You'd have some of that in there. This doesn't look much different than this. And then you have the topsoil, all-purpose topsoil. That's the cheapest. It's actually lighter than the rest of this, which means there's more wood product or peat moss in there. That doesn't necessarily have to be good or bad. It just depends on what you're looking for. What I recommend, if you don't have your own earth, like I just dig up some of my soil from my garden, from around my perennial beds, mix it with peat moss, add in compost or something, and I make my own stuff. But if you have to buy the bag products, any topsoil and peat moss makes a great mix. Same thing, peat moss and garden soil, except garden soil is a little more expensive. So what do? When you're using the peat moss with the topsoil, maybe you don't do 50-50, you do 60% peat, 40% these topsoil products, and you end up with a nice mix to use in your garden. Price-wise, so when we're looking at the topsoil, the generic brand right up there is 1 cubic foot. It is $3.27. So for 2 cubic feet, that will cost you $6.54. The Scott's Premium Topsoil is 0.75 cubic feet for $2.97. So this would cost you $7.94. And humus manure, yes, There's some benefit of organic stuff thrown in here. I treat it just like a topsoil. This is 0.75 cubic feet. It's $3.97 and it's $10.59. So the one back there, $6.50, about $8, and then $10.59 if you were going to bring this up to equal measures of 2 cubic feet. I hope that makes sense. It's really important because it's so confusing looking at these beautiful red bags and blue bags and green and yellow bags, the pink bags with yellow stripes, and you see all this stuff trying to get you to buy their product. Nothing wrong with it. So let's go over to here. And this is why, and you know, 3 or 4 years ago, this bag of peat, sphagnum peat moss, was $12. So this is 3 cubic feet compressed. And this is what happens. We see, wow, it's $22.97. I'm not going to buy this. That's too expensive. This is nice and dry. You can see how dry it is. It's compressed. When you uncompress it, fluff it up, you go for, and here's why I made this list. So you have sphagnum peat moss, 3 cubic feet compressed. Open it up, loosen it up, you get 5 cubic feet. Add water, like the rest of the products have water before I dried them, and this really swells up to about 20 cubic feet. In fact, when I looked it up, it's 20 to 25, but I just took the lower number. So you get 20 cubic feet, opened up, moistened, wet down with water for $22.97. When you look at this product, 2 cubic feet dry, you're paying $9.19, which is pretty much comparable to the other one. But it comes dry, so when you add water and it swells up, usually 3 to 5 times the size of the peat particle, that's 20 cubic feet of material. It's only costing you $2.30 per cubic foot. That is really inexpensive, and this is why everybody uses peat moss to make their own products and to fill their beds. $2.97 per 2 cubic feet. And a lot of people say, why is that important? And it's important because to figure out how much material needs to go into a raised bed, the formula is length times width times height. So if you have a 4 foot by 8 foot with a 1 foot high side raised bed, it costs, or you're going to need 32 cubic feet of material. 32 cubic feet are 16 bags of the 2 cubic foot bags. Makes 32, of course. And I went through and I showed you the prices. So if you have to go and buy, you're buying 2 cubic feet of the Miracle-Gro raised bed garden soil at $13, 16 bags times 13, that's 160, that's over $200 you're paying. And then you could do the same thing. Well, if you're just going to fill it with generic topsoil, that'd be $6.54, 2 cubic feet times 16, that's about $100. So it's cheaper. But remember too, I converted this to 2 cubic feet, so it was easy to compare the numbers. If you're buying topsoil, they only come in 1 cubic foot bag, so you'd have to buy 32 of them. And it's really heavy. It's a lot to move around in a car. It's a lot for a person to lift. The sphagnum peat moss is the best value, and you can really take 50% peat, 50% garden soil if you want, or maybe 60% peat, 40% of your topsoil. That makes a great base mix. And then into that, I like to add leaf grow or a product that's a compost that I really like. Let me show you the leaf grow. We'll talk about that. So the leaf grow is a local product. You can't find it everywhere, so you have to look in your area, find a composted product that you feel is value. And sometimes you have to buy the bag, you got to bring it home, you got to examine it, all that kind of stuff. I love the leaf grow. This is dried out. Just look at all that. Those are all bits of leaves in there. The bigger pieces of course, wood, organic matter. This is what your soil life really loves. It's been dried, of course. When you add water, it looks like beautiful stuff. Combination of leaf grow, peat moss, earth for my yard, which is mostly clay. I can make pretty much any type of container mix. or garden soil, and of course my yard is filled with topsoil because it's a big yard. Let me show you the recipes and what they look like when you make them, and we'll finish up. This is my basic 50-50 mix. You don't need to be exact. I normally just eyeball it, look at the consistency when I mix it, but for the sake of the video, an equal measure. That means you just use the same container, 1 part peat moss, sphagnum peat moss, 1 part topsoil. If you want to save more money, just use your earth. 50-50. That's my basic 50-50 mix. Mix it together. You're going to see how this transforms. The peat moss is organic matter, but it doesn't have a lot of nutritional value. But it holds water, helps turn your earth into a great container mix. You could take the peat moss, just blend it right into the soil that's already in your raised bed, and you can see that it's looking pretty good. You know, this is the cheapest way to make product, let's just call it, for your raised beds, for your containers. So it's mixed well. Let's moisten this down, see what it looks like once we add water. Added some water, it expands. This is just really nice looking material. Great for your containers, great for your earth beds. Now this again was 50% peat, 50% topsoil or earth. There's no compost or anything in here really. I want to add that in. For this video, and if you watch my videos, you're going to see different formulations. They're pretty much generally the same. So we did 1 part peat, 1 part topsoil, and now we're going to do 1 part leaf grow. But I wanted to show you the 50-50 mix first. Sometimes you might take this, maybe you just throw in a shovelful of compost. Maybe you want to add some more peat moss. Maybe you want to add some more earth. It's really up to you. But this 50-50 mix is just wonderful to fill beds and fill your containers. So my 1 part leaf grow, which is compost, composted leaves, some wood product. A lot of people ask me, why can't I just grow right in this? This doesn't really hold water that well. It dries out really quick, so seedlings struggle and it can be problematic. So by mixing this in with the peat and the earth, you end up with a great product. So let's just add in the dry leaf grow, mix it through, and you get the idea what it looks like. We're going to add a little bit more water to this. Anything is going to grow really well in this. We used 3 parts right out of that container. Look how much soil we created. This is truly soil because it has earth in it. It's got peat moss in it, has pieces of wood in it, has compost in it. What it doesn't have yet is organic granular fertilizer. You could throw some of that in there. You don't have to. This is pretty good. You could just use water-soluble fertilizer. If you wanted to turn this into, I don't know, one of those bags, let's just say we know who it is, and it says grow plants 2 times bigger, we could add fertilizer to this, and then we could compare it to plants grown in a product without fertilizer, and of course stuff grown in here is going to be 2 times bigger. This is just, I mean, I've said it, I'll say it again, beautiful stuff, and then you can just adjust the formula for whatever you want. Cheapest way to do it. It doesn't quite come down to, you know, $2 and some cents per cubic foot if it's just kind of the wet peat, unless you're just using your earth, because we're adding in some other products. But, you know, let's just call it $3 per 2 cubic foot bag. If you use the peat, it's the cheapest way to go. I mean, just look how good this stuff is. What am I going to be doing for the next couple of days? All of this is going to get blended together with the peat moss, bags of leaf grow, and, you know, I'll be filling the rest of my beds in pots and containers, and I'm going to have a lot of extra. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe. I'm trying to reach 750,000 subscribers, so every person helps. I very much appreciate it. Don't get fooled into spending a lot of money, because come on, if we're going to fill a 4 foot by 8 foot 12-inch side, 1 foot side raised bed, and we have to spend $200 and lug 32 bags of product, we're going to go broke. You can make it much more cheaply, knowing what the ingredients are, and then just buying the bulk ingredients. One thing I didn't cover is if we just want to get a small bag of perlite, throw in a handful, it's now going to look like everything over there. And the perlite's not going to do much different. That's just eye candy. If we can save money on filling our raised beds and our containers by making our own products, then we're going to have more fun in the garden. We can buy more plants, we can buy fencing, we can buy containers. This is a convenience. All these products work. They do try and fool you to spend your money by saying different things on the packaging. That's just what they do. But again, hopefully you give it a try, make your own. Sometimes you have to spend a little more up front, but it ends up saving you tons of money in the long run. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com. And again, look at what we made. 3 parts of that container. Beautiful stuff. Again, thanks for watching.